Yeah, I just want to know what schools people had good sex ed at. I felt so bad for my teacher. The day we did it, she was just like, I'm so sorry that we're gonna have to start this. I feel like a lot of people say their sex education is like this, but it wasn't really much of a sex education. I had a bio class, and then one day when we got there, the teacher was just like, hey, so today we're gonna start learning about sex education. She gave us all these packets of like the different anatomy of like a male and a female and broke things down, and then we had the notorious video of watching a woman's live birth, and it was like that same 70s video that everyone has to watch.
It was really awkward and uncomfortable, and that's really all I remember about it. So, in short, it was not great. They made us watch a live birth video. Babies come out gray. Did you know that? Babies come out gray.
I did not have a sex education. I had a biology class. Our very old biology teacher, like a 60-year-old man, told the whole class about how penises and vaginas worked.
My sex education was a seminar in 5th grade where they told us that abstinence is the only way to not get an STD. My parents gave me a miserable talk in which my dad showed me The Matrix, and that was it.
My sex education was like, it was pretty good. I went to like a private school though, so things were like, and I live on like the East Coast, so everything was like pretty good. I can't imagine what it's like living in like the South and getting like abstinence only sort of education. Middle school sex ed, and it was just all the guys in that class, and the PE teacher teaching it was like, oh, I'd like to start things fun, so I'm gonna ask, what are the things that you guys like in girls, right? And then they started immediately listing off like fucking ass, boobs and stuff, and he wrote like nice versions, but it was just kind of like a weird activity, and I like knew that as like a kid. I'm like, what's happening? And it was like kind of funny. I don't know how I feel about it now.
Sex ed at my high school was kind of limited. We had it. We definitely had like 2 years of sex ed. Towards the end of middle school sex ed, they answered a bunch of questions from an anonymous box, and one of the last questions they pulled was my wonderful art teacher, and then she read aloud, "What is queefing?" And the entire room of 7th grade girls lost their minds, and I learned what queefing was on that very day.
My sex education was not the best. My sex education was abstinence only, but if you absolutely must have to, use protection. And then it was like lists of a whole bunch of scary STDs.
Most of my sex education was done, oddly enough, in middle school. It was mostly middle school. We didn't learn a lot about like the actual act of intercourse, so much as we learned when a penis is erect, that means that a man's sperm is in his dick or something like that is what they said, and I was like,
Is that accurate?
I don't know. See, I don't know. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if it's true.
We are LUST. We stand for Listening and Understanding Sexuality Together. We are a safe space and a brave space. We are open to people of all gender identities, sexualities, race, religions, experience levels, ethnicities, Harry Potter houses.
Yes, I do think it is beneficial to learn more than just what sex ed says. Because what sex ed says, or at least what mine said, was here's the anatomy, here's how it tends to work, here's some definitions, here's how consent works. Like, that was pretty much the extent of it, and that's generous.
I definitely think that students should be taught way more about sex than they already are.
Absolutely. It's definitely beneficial to know about sex because people are going to do it anyways. So you should have accurate information about stuff and not just say, ooh, these are scary STDs that you'll get if you have sex.
Yes, I think it is a lot more beneficial to know as much as you can about at least the basics of sex.
It is for sure more important to know more about like sex and everything in the making. People get scared when like they hear a noise during sex and they're like, is that normal? And people feel so uncomfortable with this very natural thing that's supposed to like be like a very comfortable, very like, intimate thing. Yeah. I think we can change that.
Lust is absolutely very educational.
It's educational.
Yeah, it's pretty educational. I think it's more educational than anything else.
100%.
Absolutely.
No, Lust has definitely helped me learn more about where to go for sexual health.
I think Lust is very educational. I learned so much about women's sexual health and sexual education last semester.
You learn from somebody else's experience. Oh, like don't eat Mongolian barbecue. Like don't do that kind of thing.
I feel like I can view things more fluidly, as I guess, fluid than I did before. You know, I view things kind of more abstract than I did before. I think people like to put lines between different things because that's how our brain likes to categorize things when categories don't really exist. People like to label themselves things, but you don't really need those labels because we're all just pieces of flesh, and sex is just a way to make more flesh.
But it's affected the way I've like been able to talk about it, because now my friends and I can just be like talking about like the sex toys we have, and I can tell my friend like, hey, let's go to like Lotions and Lace and like get some sex toys, and we can go together, and it's fun, and it's not something I would have expected to be able to do, but I think it's good and healthy. So
Coming to a place like Lust has helped me talk to people who have either known for much longer or who know even less than I do. And like, it feels very supportive to talk to people like in that context. The thing I knew the least about was the person-to-person aspect, like the level and how you do that kind of communication, like what you actually want and how to express that.
So Lust has been very, very helpful with helping me get past my fears of talking about sex.
I'd say it made me more wholesome. It's very, very, very enriching.
Lust has made me a lot more comfortable, not just for like sex, sexuality, gender, all that stuff, but especially in like the kink region.
You know, you learn a lot about sexual health. You learn a lot about safe sex. You learn a lot about practicing kinks and stuff safely. Yeah, Lust really, I'd say opened up especially the world of kinks and BDSM to me.
I'm much more open to having sex and to like having all of the sexual conversations and sexual health conversations that I can possibly have, and I'm like very much excited to do it.
It's just so much fun and I love it so much.